Today's guest is Daniel Singer, founder of Filthy Mixers and Garnishes. From dyslexia at an early age to finding their calling in the flavor of the olive and going on a journey to find the best flavor. This is a conversation about an entrepreneur who understood that the power of patience and the ability to withhold instant gratification was going to get them where they wanted to be. Apart from that, anyone who fancies a cocktail is going to be able to appreciate this conversation because it's about taking a weak link in a space that otherwise is refined all the way through. There was a detail they forgot about that. And Daniel and his entire team work every day to inject love into the details. And so this is really a conversation I want you to sit back, get a drink with, and just hit play and listen to it. There will be insights, and there will be fun, and there will be business conducted. So you can see how that took place and take those ideas with you and move forward. So without further ado, Daniel Singer. I was looking over some of my notes, and they tell me, and this is something almost every entrepreneur can relate to, that growing up, school wasn't always their favorite place because they just didn't quite fit in. They were the garnish, the mixer, they were just not part of the original recipe of the standard whatever drink, the most basic format. They just want to pump it out like it's McDonald's burgers, and that's not the case for an entrepreneur. And it turns out your story is no different.
No, I massively struggled in school. I'm dyslexic, highly dyslexic. I say super dyslexic because I consider it a superpower. I say that to my kids because one of my youngest daughter is also dyslexic. But I think life is very much about conforming or rebelling. You're going to conform or you're going to rebel. And if the system doesn't accept you, the way you learn is not supported by the environment that you're in, then rebel really, really hard. And I think that energy, all my mates that were sort of neurodiverse, whether it's ADHD, dyslexia, whatever their sort of way of thinking is, and we call it now a learning difference, right? It's not a learning disability or learning difficulty. We don't attach negative things to it. It's just a learning difference. We learn differently. But all my mates that learn differently, they're either entrepreneurs, special forces, or criminals. So that energy has to manifest itself, that desire to rebel against the system that doesn't accept you, normally in three different ways. Luckily, and sometimes you can beat all three of those at the same time, right?
Especially after a couple of London dry-ins.
Exactly. For me, it's really about, if you're going to rebel positive. And I think that's the thing when you're a young person growing up in an environment, maybe it's not the best, maybe school is a massive challenge on top of that. At first, I always say I was sort of born in a furnace and raised by fire. And as I've got older, when I'm younger, as that fire could be quite destructive, right? Whether it's outward or inward, you're just trying to figure it out, but you're full of all of this energy. And as I've got older, what I realized is I'm still on fire, but if I harness it, it can be warmth and light. That energy can be used for something super positive. And I just put all of that energy, all of that desire to want to make something of myself, the desire to want to build something, to put beautiful things into the world, to respect the opportunity that America gave me. I put it into just trying to build a beautiful company filled with people that share the same passion and desire to take care of people in the details. And as I said, put beautiful things into the world. We are all about that, man. That's where we live.
I love that. There's a rebellion in the details that you decided to pursue. Was that easy? Well, nothing is easy. Was it clear to you the path moving forward for how you would financially get this to happen? Because it starts differently for everyone. Some people are asked by others, please start this, right? Others go, I'm going to start this. And then the question comes, how will I make this happen? Financially, will I bootstrap it? Will I get a couple of friends to help me pitch in to make this happen? What was your journey like?
So ultimately what it comes down to is self-awareness, right? We all go through life and we have to be aware of how we work and what makes us happy and where we find joy. Because as you know, when you're trying to build something, pain is inevitable, right? We are all going to get pain. It is going to be painful. So as an entrepreneur, it's really about your ability to withstand the pain, your own personal pain threshold. Some people are not built for the pain over long periods of time. And then it's about the pain threshold of the people that love you, because they're watching you endure the pain, and you're a psychopath, right? So it doesn't, for you, that's just the way it works, right? You're built for this type of journey. You're not built for a quiet life, right? So you're on this journey, and then it's about them going, are you okay? What can we do to help? Or this is hard for us. Like, we want a different type of life. So it's really ultimately about your own personal pain threshold, and then the pain threshold of the people that love you. When you start a business, you have to determine what success looks like. Do I want to be good locally? Do I want to be good regionally? Do I want to be good nationally? Or do I want to build a global business? That's where the self-awareness thing comes in, right? What does success really look like? What am I going to be satisfied with? You can have a beautiful local business providing great services to a community, being celebrated within your community, and should be enough if you're satisfied with that level of success. For other people, they pursue something that's wider and more far-reaching. So what is that about? Is that about ego, or is that about opportunity? So let's take Filthy as an example, right? I had built and scaled a national business, but let's take ego or drive or ambition out of it completely, right? What it comes down to is how far can you scale your business or service before you bump into somebody that wants to kill you? So let's say you're in a competitive market space, right?
Yeah.
I have a lemonade stand, right? And it's beautiful. And I want to scale my lemonade stand. At what point am I going to bump into somebody else that has a lemonade stand that does beautiful lemonade too? And then I'm going to have to spend my money fighting them as opposed to growing my business. So when you're making that decision, local, regional, national, global, the money question, which is what you're asking, right, is how out of the money that I've been able to squirrel away, how do I spend it thoughtfully so I can grow and not fight? So it's really about finding a space where you don't have a lot of competition, where there's not a lemonade stand on every corner, where it's going to cost you so much money to try to take their market or to communicate to the audience why your lemonade is better than theirs, and then let the market decide. So in the case of Filthy, I was very conscious about starting a business that had no competition. So with the little resources I had at the beginning, I could spend all my money growing and none of my money fighting. That was absolutely critical to how I built this business.
I mean, that it definitely is really unique in its approach, specifically because that's a lot of self-awareness going into something that
100%.
most people just jump into, right?
Mm,
Is there anything that, and before we get to the main thread here, right?
yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
pull on this thread. Is there anything that you can attribute that sort of self-awareness that you're starting with as you begin this journey in your own life? Is it the fact
Yeah.
that school was so hard and you always had to
Definitely.
just figure out, like, well, I'm not going to be like the other kids, so I got to figure out how I'm going to get, and then some kids turn into the class clown, what have you?
Mm,
Is this sort of where that started for you, would you say,
definitely.
if you had to attribute it to something?
100%. Like, I could not gain any knowledge from books. I couldn't read books, right? Or read from books. The words would spin around on the page. So I got all my information because I had to move forward, right? You can
Yeah.
say this doesn't work. I'm going to just sit here and dissolve, or I'm going to find a way to move forward. So at the time, sort of unaware, unbeknownst to me, or I was unaware of it. I would just ask a lot of questions. but why do you do that like that? But why is that like that? But why is that like that? And I was trying to gain knowledge, trying to understand it through curiosity, as opposed to just trying to get it in perhaps a normal way. So, and also I'm a practical human being. I like to learn things by doing things. So as a kid, I was always, my mum would give us candies every Friday night. There was 4 of us under 4 at one point. So me, my brother Mark's 10 months younger than me. Then there were twins 2.5 years later. Every Friday, my mum would take the jar down after dinner and we could take one candy from the jar. I would save my candy. I'd put it in another jar. I'd use my pocket money to buy more candies. And then after 6 months, my jar was full, right, of sweets. Then I would invite the neighborhood kids over. I would set up soup cans. They could throw a ball. If they knocked the cans, I had to pay to come in my backyard, right? But if they knocked the cans down, they could choose a sweet from out of the jar that I'd saved up. I was always entrepreneurial. I was always interested in that stuff. Back then, we didn't call it entrepreneurs. I'm 50. We used to say, "Oh, that person's a businessman, right? Oh, that's a businessman." So I wanted to be a businessman, all right? So, but I would say 100%. I was entrepreneurial innately. It was within me. The candies and the backyard funfair was just one example of that. It manifested itself all the time. On top of that, I was curious and I asked questions. But what I would say to you is, I'm in an airport in 2006. So pre-iPhones, really, right? Nobody was tied into stuff, right? There was only, before you were waiting for a flight, there was only bookshops. So I'm dyslexic. So I go into this bookshop because I'm trying to kill some time before my flight. And there's this one book, and it's called Blue Ocean Strategy. And I'm like, let me fumble through this, right? So I look at the back page, I look at the first few pages. And ultimately, as you well know, the example is you're either in the red ocean, a highly competitive business where you're beating each other up and the ocean turns red with blood, or you're in the blue ocean, a business without competition. The example they used was Cirque du Soleil, right? Circus was dying. Few people went to the theater. Some French Canadian genius combined them to create a business without competition. So that idea stuck with me. How do I find a business without competition? And I was going into bars and restaurants. This incredible bartender movement was happening. People were using fresh ingredients, fresh juices. And I would look at these big gallons of oily, salty, shitty salad olives. And they were putting it in these great drinks that they took a lot of pride in. And they just weren't happy with it. And I was like, man, I wonder how big that olive market is. I wonder why there's no brand in the space. And it had a $12 billion market here in the US. And I was like, man, there's no brand, huge market. So I could spend my money growing and not fighting people. And then I ended up going on this 2-year olive pilgrimage, looking at 230 varieties of olives, coming back to America with just 4 barrels of naturally cured olives, and built the business for the next 3 years out of the back of my wife's car, going from bar to bar, delivering cases of olives and cherries for 3 years before I picked up my first distributor.
I think it's really interesting that it was the olive that opened that up. Well, first of all, there was something that I wanted to make sure we highlighted in that story of the filling of your candy jar, your own candy jar, and what you did with that. There's this element of delayed gratification that
100%.
really comes into play there. That, as you were saying that, I began to realize is also a quality that many entrepreneurs are willing to deal with. We called it pain earlier in the beginning of the conversation.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
There's this element of anyone with the capacity for increased or prolonged delayed gratification really would become an exemplary entrepreneur, because it's almost a prerequisite to get into that arena with that way. So then you step into bringing it forward to what you just shared, the pilgrimage. And I remember having a martini, and I remember the drink was fine, but when I accidentally, and I thought it was an accident by doing this because that's how bad it was, I ate the olive and I was like, good Lord, what is that? For me, it wasn't for me, but I did say to myself, if the olive was a little better, this drink might have been not bad. And I love gin, right? So I think it's really fascinating that for you, when you saw that happening, and great book, by the way, it's one of the
Mm,
only books that really did stick with me as well.
mm,
I read a
mm,
lot, but I don't remember a lot of it all the
mm,
time.
mm,
You know what I mean? It's not
mm.
the reading comprehension. I
Oh
got what the
no.
book was about, it just
Yeah.
wasn't memorable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome for someone who had had those challenges growing up and was like, I don't know, man, especially
Mm,
with school, right? Because it's
mm,
not
mm.
directly tied to what you're doing. So you were already practical, developing businesses. You read this book, you go, well, that's a hell of an idea. You start looking around, you're living your life, getting involved in what you're doing. You go, there it is, right there, right? That aha moment for you, which is super cool because you see these olives, and not everybody has the aha moment. So you see these olives and you start going on a pilgrimage. And I imagine after the 30th olive, you were like, am I in the right space? Did you ever ask yourself that? Were you
Well, I think first of all, just to respond and say, like, that's incredibly insightful of you to pick out the patience piece and attach that to the pain piece, because the longer you do something, your ability to withstand pain over a longer period of time has to be indelible with being an entrepreneur. Everybody is looking to find a get rich um, opportunity. In my experience, that does not happen. Once you accept the fact that nobody save you, then you go, okay, what do I need to be made of to endure everything that the world is going to throw at me until I reach a point where I can sustain myself? And then it's really about ego, and I'm very lucky. I've been married for 23 years. My wife loves me. We've got three children that are now 19, 17 and 14, but at the time they were little babies. And to say, like, I love you, do this thing, I believe in you, we'll make it work. And when the kids are small, it's okay, because in a way, they're not aware that they're wearing the shit sneakers or the basketball shorts that aren't the styly basketball shorts that the other kids are wearing, right? But at the same time, I knew what my mission was. I knew what the purpose was. So it was okay to be in that. It's okay to be where you're at and accept where you're at and not feel like I hate this whole fake it till you make it thing. I absolutely detest that. And it's not about like showing up or being what the room needs you to be, right? You can do that, but to attach that with being fake or inauthentic, I just don't get that. I would go to bars and restaurants and deliver out the back of my car, and I never pretended to be anything that I wasn't. I'm trying to build something beautiful. I'm trying to be part of you creating incredible drinks for your guests. You're not happy with these gallons of olives. Let me be your partner in this space. Give me the opportunity. You want to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning because you need olives? I'm going to show up consistently over a long period of time. So the fact that you extracted from all of that patience and pain threshold, that's 100% right. Buckle up. Find out what you're made of, right? That's really what it comes down to. With regards to not stopping, yeah, I could have walked around the olive bar at Whole Foods, right? I could have picked an olive, got somebody else to put it in a jar, made a nice fancy label. But for me, it has to feel real. And then it's about, do I want to be in this space? I love bartenders. I love people in hospitality. I love people that show love through service. Philip comes into the bar. He's had an okay day. He's just looking for somebody to be kind. He's just looking for a nice drink. He's just looking to like decompress. Everybody in hospitality that's really supposed to be in hospitality, they're like, how you doing? How can I help you? What would you like? Here's a menu. Let me take care of you. So for me, I was like, man, I love this space. I love people that show love through service, that want to take care of me. How can I make what they do better, and how can I build a business within this space? So I think the first thing is I identified the opportunity. Then I was patient enough to really build it in a way that I felt proud of. Then it was about finding the community that can celebrate what you do so they can be kind to you and give you an opportunity when they have no business to. People that were running amazing bars would be like, okay, we'll buy your olives. Or friends of mine would like introduce me to other friends when they had no business to be kind to me in that sense, and they just were, because they felt what I was trying to do, what I was trying to put into the world, my work ethic, my desire to just make something of myself. And they gave me a shot. So it all aligns. It's about your community. It's about adding value to that community. It's about taking pride in what you're doing. And it's about showing up all the time. And there's this expression, which is pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. I never suffer. I love the pain, mate. I love it. I love it. I love the pain. I'm grateful for the pain because I feel alive. Then it's just about, okay, what am I going to do with this energy now? And I never suffer. Such a waste. Negativity, suffering, such a waste. So I don't prescribe to it.
I love it, man. For me, I'm also, it was cool having the visual of showing up, pulling the stuff out the back of the car, right? You're like, hey, you're
Yeah.
making deals. These are all people that know you. Maybe some of them had just heard about you, but the point
Yeah.
is you showed up,
That's right.
you rolled up your sleeves and people saw that. At least the business owners that I've come across in my time that I worked for when I was a lot younger, it was the same thing. We'd be lugging things out of cars, getting up at 5 a.m., going somewhere, sometimes most of the time on the weekends, we'd be going to get more
Yeah.
supplies, what have you, right? But then those are the people that, excuse me, those are the people that end up having the houses, the cars that they want, all from just sheer work ethic on a
Yeah.
small opportunity, right? But you took it a step further because you had a community. You actually instilled a community. Some people just go, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to sell it, and however much I make, I make. But you
Right.
went a step further and said, I need a community to be part of this,
Yeah.
right?
I want to be part of something.
How did you get that dialogue to happen? Was it sort of a natural extension of the people you already knew in the space you were in, or was there a little more
Yeah.
intense behind it?
There is, if you have a product, you are selling it to somebody, right? You can't, or you're providing a service to somebody. So it's understanding who benefits most from the product or service that you've created. So at the beginning of the journey, it was really about, for me, earning credibility so that great bartenders could see what we were doing and go, yeah, that is so much better than what is available to us now. So great bartenders were and continue to be my biggest supporter. Filthy is a bartender's word of mouth brand. It doesn't matter if ultimately we're in every country in the world. Bartenders drive our brand, right? Because I love bartenders. I love the community. Like I said earlier, people that show up and want to take care of you. I love those guys. So, who benefits most from your product? And then how do you communicate to them clearly so they can understand why there's a benefit to buying your stuff over the stuff they're buying right now? So at that point, Miami, which is where Filthy's was born, is where I'm based, had a very tight bartending community. There was this huge, I guess, explosion in hospitality at the time. Great chefs were coming down here. Chefs like Michelle Bernstein had all these great restaurants. Value stopped becoming big plates and big drinks, right? When I first came to America, I couldn't believe it. I'd order some food. The plate was so big, I could eat for like 2 days on like take home, right? All the stuff I was left with on the plate, I'd be like, man. And that was what value was, right? And it was incredible. And then this shift happened. As the chef movement happened, people started to look at what was happening in other areas of the world. And it wasn't about value being big portions. It started becoming tapas style, small plates, better quality, different flavors. So as this chef movement was happening, bartenders and drinks were being created in the same restaurants to pair with that great food. And there was a shift that happened. And that shift, I was sort of at the beginning, really, with Filthy, of that shift. Bartenders sort of looking for credibility in their job. At the time, bartending wasn't a career. Maybe it was something you were doing while you were trying to be an actor or while you were putting yourself through school. But then this whole movement happened. There were these incredible bartenders. I call them like the Mount Rushmore of bartending. But their passion and this new movement into cocktails encouraged a lot of other people to say, hey, maybe this could be a career. And then liquor brands realized, hey, you know what? A great bartender recommends 1,000 drinks a week. We're going to invest in this community. So cocktail competitions happen. Bartenders started to become educated, flown to different regions around the world to get more knowledge. And then Filthy sort of came along and connected with this community and said, like, everything you're doing is amazing. You really love it. You really care about it. You're really educating yourself. What do you think of your olives? Oh, our olives? Yeah, those big gallons that you get from the food distributors. Do you like them? No, we hate them. They suck. Okay. If we could give you something better, would you give us a shot? Absolutely. And then bartenders just told their friends. That's really how it works. So what I would say with a community question, you're always selling to somebody. So what's the commonality between that group of people? And how do you connect with that group and show them that you're in it for the long run and that what you're doing provides value? You have to identify your audience.
Yeah, man. And especially with social media and the way it came up, you're 100% right. As because it's true. I'm just old enough to have grown up at a time where, being a bartender, sure, you go get that. That it's like the actor Don Cheadle went to waiter school, right? And then he became a waiter,
Yeah.
that whole thing, right? And that was the thing, and that's what people did. But then social media came in, and you started watching some of the way these people make drinks, and you're like, my God, I don't even care how it tastes. I'll drink it,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of power and prestige that role started to get. And however much money people were making at a time, you really can make that a career now. And it's cool to know that you saw that and you said, these are my stars, and I'm about to give the stars the best product they can give. Just
Yeah.
there was a weak link in the chain of products you were using. uh,
Yeah.
it's like, great, you're using this fantastic aged in a barrel for years, alcohol, liquor, and then you throw a Costco or like a
Yeah.
Sam's Club or some grocery store, not even taking into account for any detail whatsoever, olive on it.
Yeah. Why do you? Because you don't know
Yeah.
there's a difference, right?
Where's the congruence?
Yeah.
Allow me to elevate your experience for you.
Yeah.
I
Let me
love
let
that.
me love you. Let me love
Yes.
you in these little details. This
Yes.
was a category that was completely void of love, right? It was completely void of love. So for me, it was about creating something that really had a lot of intention behind it. We naturally cure olives for 4 months with salt and water instead of 4 days with chemicals like everybody else does. Again, an example of patience. So we took a lot of pride in what we did. We connected with a community, and that community told their friends. We did the business completely the opposite way to businesses are built now. Everybody was building businesses online, right? Great social media presence. It was like a veneer on a rotten tooth. Publicly, it will look like a great thing, but those businesses weren't lasting because they didn't have businesses. So what we did was we had such a foundational product, and in the way we did it and in the way we produced it, the product was and is like, we're maniacal about quality, right? You can't have a brand called Filthy and then have product that's not exceptional quality. There's no irony in that, right? So we had a beautiful product. We showed up. We did what we said we were going to do. We focused intently on quality and consistency, because that's how you build a brand. Quality, consistently delivered, right? That's what we did. And we were very patient. We had high pain threshold. We knew there was an opportunity to build a brand in the garnish and mixer space. And especially as we've expanded now from olives and cherries into Bloody Mary mixed margarita mix, I can fight now, right? I'm bigger than I was at the beginning. So if those other Bloody Mary companies want to like meet me outside the front of a bar, I'm more confident now, right? I'm bigger. But at the beginning, they would have just squashed me. So it was pointless us going into that space because we couldn't have broken through. We couldn't have raised enough awareness for what we were doing. So for the audience that's building like a series of products, you may have a whole load of things in your idea, in your mind of what you want to create. But where can you spend money growing, differentiate yourself, creating a unique space? And where are you going to have a product that you're going to have to fight people? And when do you introduce that product? Make sure you're big enough. secure enough, have the right team, make sure the foundation is solid enough. So when you introduce products that are more competitive, like we've done now with Bloody and Margarita Mix, we're ready to have that conversation. We're ready to engage. So when we pushed from garnishes into mixers, if we were going to launch a Bloody Mary mix as an example, very competitive set. So what's your differentiator? Everybody else used additives, preservatives, allergens, all this other crap that was going in it. It was in the plastic bottles, right? So we were like, okay, let's do something that's completely natural, that tastes like you just made it from scratch, and put it in the most sustainable packaging in the world. And let's see how people respond. And in the first 12 months of launching it, we picked up Marriott, Carnival Cruise Lines, Virgin Voyages, Delta Airlines, right? So why? Because we had built a brand that had earned people's trust and respect. People knew Filthy was about quality, consistently delivered. It's premium, but with a bit of attitude, right? And they were engaging with us, and they trusted us as a partner, that we would deliver all the time, that we would help make their drinks better. So then we could introduce other products into that, knowing those products were more competitive, but they trusted and respected us at that point. Where if we would have started the other way around, just been a veneer company that was like great on social, but then as you start to pick up big accounts, you can't support the growth, and then you just lose all your credibility. We didn't. We built it one bar at a time. We built a brand. We built a name that was synonymous with quality, that people loved. And now we can introduce more stuff, but all around the same thing. We're not going into areas of business that aren't connected. We make the drinks people love better. So now we just get to play in more drinks because we listen to the room, right? We listened to what people wanted, and we were aware enough to deliver on what we heard. So that's how we grew.
This is one of the perfect examples of, the beauty of simplicity, right? The idea, the number of people who overthink, oh, what should I start a business? And first of all, if you're asking that question already, you should probably, and then they're thinking, oh, I have this master plan and what have you. And sure, you had this giant vision, but you need to know where the vision started. And it was a simple choice. It wasn't easy to get to, right? There was a whole journey that took place, but that one unlock brought everything forward. And so many people are often overthinking things. This is another, I think, part of the insight of this journey as I'm hearing it is don't overthink it. Start small, but start with quality, right? Because
100%.
people, let's take, for example, the idea of drop shipping, and right, a lot of people can try to fight the big players in the game, the A to Z players, if you will, right? There's one in particular that literally uses A to Z, right? Then you have your little bespoke brand, not to be diminutive, but you have this brand and it's smaller, but it's unique, it's boutique, and you're trying to compete. And then someone asks you, well, can you do next day shipping? Well, but that's not the point, because you buy something from the A to Z players and it doesn't feel great. It feels like cardboard when you're wearing it or what have you, if it's clothing, right? But then this is just a corollary to the whole thing that you're talking about. But then if you were to buy from us, this is hand stitched or what have you, it was aged well to preserve the materials. When you wear it, it feels like you're wearing clouds, you name it, right? All these details immediately put you in a space where it doesn't matter what they're doing, so you can focus on what you're doing. And
100%.
I just wanted to reiterate that, because that's literally sort of your own journey. And whether or not any of those thoughts ever crossed your mind or not, it's cool to see the way business works. And again, it's even cooler that right off the bat, all those people you were trying to speak to that you already appreciated from the beginning as you were building, then you gain their support, and they're the ones telling people. And the minute that happens, it becomes something that it's out of your hands. It's become something of its own.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And that has to be fascinating. Do you have a metric on maybe how many places you're actually in now? Are you watching
thousands.
that?
There's that. We have a great partnership here in the States with lots Division and Southern Wine and Spirit, who have been a great partner. Johnson Brothers in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we have great partners. And what I would say, based on something you just said, is when you're starting a business, never see yourself as a small company. See yourself as a young company, right? It's just a mindset thing, right? We're young, and all the people that got what we were doing only saw us as young. They never saw us as small. And I'm always so straight up with people, we have people respond on, social that will say, I haven't got a response to your, to something that we DM'd you about. And I'm like, it's 7:30 on a Monday morning. You DM'd us at like 2 o'clock in the morning last night, or for the holidays. Like we give everybody 2 weeks off for the holidays at the end of the year. Everybody here at Filthy, on top of what, because they should spend time with their family. They should spend time outside of the office to decompress after what's been an intense year, because we're in massive growth mode. So when people reach out to you during the holidays and they're like, well, we didn't get this, and like, we are good at what we're good at, right? Which is we produce beautiful products. If any of the carriers, FedEx, DHL, they charge you what they charge you, that's got nothing to do with us. So if you're saying like our shipping's too expensive or this or this or this, buy it locally, buy it in a local liquor store. But if you're ordering it online, we can control what we can control. And you know what? No, maybe somebody didn't respond to you within 3 minutes because we're not some chatbot from China. It's some human being that works here that maybe kid is graduating, and you know what, who's normally on top of that, and they went and watched their kid graduate or something like that. So I think it's about just being real. We try to every day meet or exceed the expectation of the audience that we're focused on, our community. We try to meet or exceed their expectation every day. There are some days even with all of the energy and all of the effort, you're just not going to get there, or you're going to choose for that person to go watch their kid graduate and maybe not respond within 3 minutes. It's okay. Just communicate to somebody back like a human being. Hey, sorry we didn't get back to you. Cynthia was watching her kid graduate. Hope you understand. We'll do everything we can to make sure that you get what you need. We know your party's not for 3 weeks anyway, so don't worry, we got you. Or you know what, we'll cover the overnight shipping or whatever it is. Talk to people like the human beings. People talk about B2B or B2C. It's B2P, right? It's people to people. That's it. That's really it. Like we all want to just be seen and heard and acknowledged and have somebody be nice and kind to us. So talk to people like they're human beings and just expect the same in return. And if you mess up, apologize. Hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. I totally screwed up. It's completely on me. What can I do to make it right? Let me do this. And most people, once you treat them like a human being or respond in that way, they're like, hey, no worries. You know what? I was disappointed. Let me take down that bad review, or let me increase that 1 star to 5 because of the way that you acted.
Yeah.
Everything is salvageable, right? And, so just show up, be a human being, treat people with respect, and deliver on the promise that you made. And make sure you consistently meet or exceed that promise, or you're going to disappoint people and you won't stay in business.
I love it, man. I think we've explored so many things I didn't actually intend for, which is how it was a good conversation. I want to roll out the red carpet for you in the interest of time here. What would you love for the listener to know about what you're doing right now? Where do you want them to go? Do you want them to visit anywhere in particular?
That's very kind of you. First of all, really lovely chatting with you, Philip. It's been such a pleasure, mate. What I would say is, if you like cocktails, wherever you go, whether it's vodka or gin or tequila, you're normally not always drinking that spirit out of the bottle, unless it's been a really rough day, right? You're normally mixing it with something to give yourself what you believe you deserve. So the first thing I would say is, if you're making margaritas at home, you're making martinis, you're treating yourself to a nice old fashioned, when you come home from a hard day's work, make sure that you give yourself something beautiful. Choose something nice, watch a couple of videos. And if you choose to use Filthy olives, our cherries, our margarita mix, trust that there are people behind this product that love what they do, that are so focused about quality and consistency to make sure that you have a great time. So trust that will make that drink that you love better. So give yourself something nice to drink, choose a great spirit. Don't mess it up with, you can find everything we do at filthyfood.com. Don't type filthy into the internet, mate. I can't be responsible for what comes up. I would just go to filthyfood.com. There you'll see a place you can put in your zip code and you'll find all the liquor stores we're in. And you can get everything you need. And you can always reach out to me at Filthy Daniel. That's my Instagram handle. And like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity to connect and tell the story and just have a proper chat. So thank you.
Yeah, man. No, I'm very grateful. There was a lot of things that I was reminded of. Sometimes you forget in the middle of the hustle and bustle. And if it's any indication, if speaking to you, the pacing, the heart, the soul of the way we were interacting, and the values that you hold and the company culture. Not only do you make a quality product, but you also make sure the quality of energy behind your team is respected, because that has to match the product itself. If all of those are any indication of what it's actually like to consume the Filthy products, I'm on board with it. So
Thanks, mate.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being the refined person that you are and creating the refined culture.
Wishing you continued success. Hopefully we can catch up and belly up at a bar at some point and drink some cocktails.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks so much.